Well, welcome to the channel, viewers. Dr. JWAU, theologist since 1994. Who is ruling Australia? This is a behavioural political analysis, a therapy journey. Episode 17. When Australians started remembering the truth they were never meant to forget. In episode 16, I examined the moment Australians began searching beyond the system for truth, conscience, dignity, and a higher authority. And in this episode, I'm going to move deeper into the buried inheritance many Australians were never taught to recognise. And this issue goes far deeper than what I'm about to cover. And so, at first, the forgetting did not feel dangerous. It felt modern, efficient, practical, neutral, free from old restraints and constraints. And Australians were told Australia could keep the benefits of civilisation while quietly discarding the architecture, the moral architecture, that once restrained these out-of-control powers. They protected conscience and gave humanity dignity foundationally. Then slowly another recognition began surfacing beneath Australian exhaustion. Australians had not only lost trust in institutions, and rightfully so. Many had been separated from truths that once taught them why institutions had limits at all. A woman sits at a darkened study desk beneath unpaid invoices while an old family Bible rests unopened on the shelf behind her. The laptop glows with another policy update. The room contains two inheritances. One speaks in management language, while the other waits in silence. And viewers, this contrast matters, because Australians become easier to govern once they forget the moral source of their own dignity. If human value is only administrative, economic, or political, then the system can measure it, price it, regulate it, and redefine it whenever pressure requires another adjustment. But Australia was not built merely on process. Beneath the visible law sat older assumptions. Truth is not created by government. Conscience is not property of the state. Authority is limited. Families matter. Property requires stewardship. Freedom requires responsibility, and human beings answer first to God before they answer to these institutions. And viewers, Australians, those ideas did not vanish. They were buried beneath procedural language, deliberate education drift, so-called cultural embarrassment, and decades of public life slowly acting as though transcendence was irrelevant to stability. And somewhere underneath that burial, people began adapting to a strange civilizational poverty. They knew rights, but not duties. They knew services, but not sacrifice. They knew complaint, but not covenant. They knew opinion, but not truth enough to stand above appetite, lust. They can still deeply feel loss in their bodies, the tightening chest before another form, the quiet shame of needing permission, the strange grief of living inside a nation that inherited limits on power, but now rarely remembers why those limits were sacred. The system kept expanding into the empty spaces of immorality. Not always by force, often by absence. And when conscience weakens, regulation multiplies. When families fracture, bureaucracy enters. When truth becomes negotiable, power becomes imperative. And when God is removed from public imagination, government quietly becomes the highest visible authority left. And that's what's happened to Australia. That is the hidden danger. Not simply that Australians have forgotten about religious language, which primarily they have, but that many forgot the protection those foundations gave against unlimited human authority come from above. A father stands beside a kitchen drawer filled with unopened reminders, wondering why every part of life now feels licensed, monitored, billed, corrected, assessed, and managed. And he does not call it theological, but his exhaustion is touching theology, because the soul now knows when life has been reduced beneath what human beings were created to carry. And that's what's happening in Australia. The house feels still now. And apparently the country does too, but I don't think so. And somewhere beneath the forgetting, another truth slowly begins surfacing, and I challenge you to listen to my closing statement very carefully. A people become easier to manage once they forget the higher authority that first taught them they were not property of the system. I'm going to say that again, viewers. People become easier to manage once they forget the higher authority that first taught them they were not institutional property. They were not property of the system, and that's what's happened to Australia. I'm Dr. J.W. Ayub, theologist since 1994. Like, subscribe, comment to educate and inspire me. Share to help somebody else. Bye for now.